Hi, and welcome to this edition of Criminal Justice Natters with me, Ed Johnston. Today we are joined by Sandy Greenman, who is Steven Avery's closest friend. And in the wake of Kathleen Zellner's news last week that there is a new witness with sworn testimony in terms of what he saw on the day when he believed he saw Bobby Dassey and another man push into Teresa Halbach's vehicle onto the Avery Salvage Yard. In light of this news, I thought it would be really interesting to get an update from Sandy in terms of how Steven is feeling and how the family are, and what might be the next steps in terms of Steven Avery's appeal. So let's get to it.
Hi, Sandy. Thanks for joining us today on Criminal Justice Natters. It's great to have you here.
Hello, Ed. I can call you Ed, right?
Of course you can. Yeah, absolutely. Of course you can. Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good. So we'll get right to it. There was some big news last week from Kathleen. What was your reaction to the news?
Over the moon.
Over the moon.
I was so happy. Yes, I was. It was finally some truth coming out, is the way I felt about it. Somebody finally got through to Kathleen and should make quite a difference with new evidence like that.
What do you think the new evidence will actually, like in terms of the process in Wisconsin, what do you think the new evidence will allow to happen? What would be the next steps here?
I would hope that we would get an evidentiary hearing and a chance to present that evidence. Now, she has filed for a remand and stay on the appeal. We haven't gotten the answer from them yet. Got the reply from the state, and of course they're against it. But I would think that if the appellate court remands it back to the circuit court, that they would order an evidentiary hearing, and we can bring this man into it as a witness, hopefully. And he's got a sworn affidavit. I would assume he's going to testify if we get a hearing. And at least it shows that someone else was involved with planting that vehicle on the salvage yard. And that, to me, is the first step in proving his innocence. That's a real first step. It's a real person that's out there saying, this is what I saw.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it leads to a hearing.
Okay. And on the basis of that hearing, if that is all successful and the evidence gets heard in court, what would happen to Steven then?
I would imagine it would lead to a new trial, to just start over again, more or less, and they'd have to overturn his conviction, I suppose, before they could have a new trial. Now, that's KZ's territory. But I'm just going to add this, I just can't believe that the state would want to pay the money out to actually try this man again.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they're going to do that, in my mind. Not in KZ's mind necessarily, but my mind. I can't see they'd want to do that, because certainly he'll be found innocent this time. There's just too much with all the evidence that she uncovered, debunking what was there, more or less. I can't see that they'd go through that again.
No, and I suppose for any prosecutor that's going to take that case on, that's going to be a massive uphill battle in terms of how this case is exploded around the world over the last sort of 5 to 6 years,
Oh yeah. That would be some case. They start over again with a trial like that.
Absolutely. Was the news unexpected? When I interviewed Kathleen a couple of about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I got a distinct impression from her that she was really close to saying something, and I thought she was quite candid in her explanations in terms of that she knows who's done this. And I don't think I've ever interviewed a defense lawyer, and I've interviewed many, both for the channel and for work purposes. But I don't know if I've met anyone with the degree of certainty that the impression she gave me. Was it unexpected news, or has this been in the pipeline for a little while?
I think she's always been confident. When she took the case, she had told me that she would not take a case that she wasn't 100% sure the person was innocent. And when she first met Steven and interviewed him for a lengthy period of time, she said 110% innocent. So she knew from the start that she was going to win this case.
Yeah.
And she's been confident right from the start. I've never talked to her when she wasn't confident. And she knows a lot more than what I know that she knows, that I don't know what she's got. And that's a good thing, because she's got evidence that hopefully would come out in an evidentiary hearing that hasn't been on paper. This is my idea anyway, that I think that she does, because she's constantly investigating. She hasn't just let it go. And wait for the appellate court to act. She's looking into all kinds of things that Steven has asked her about. When he asks her to do something, she does it. She'll go and investigate it. So she's not sitting still and waiting for their decision. So we know she's got stuff that's going to come out, even though I can't tell you what it is, and she won't either, probably. No. It's for the courts, And I think that's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sounds so interesting in terms of, as an outsider looking in to this case, to see how it develops. I mean, there's so many theories and so many ideas out there that to actually get some sort of tangible evidence to support Steven's innocence, I think is great.
Oh, I know. That's why it was such a wonderful feeling the other day when that came out, and this other man now that the guy couldn't identify, Mr. Sawinski couldn't identify him, but I believe she knows who he is. And hopefully she has made arrangements to speak with him and find out what his story is. Was he there? What did he do? Why did he do it? There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he will be truthful, no matter what his part was in it. Hopefully
do you think you know who he? I'm not going to ask you to name him, but do you have a suspicion as to who he is as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the news last week, how did Steven's mum and dad react?
I haven't talked to either one of them. Mama A is in a nursing home, and I have not been able to see her since the last of October. I haven't seen her in almost 6 months.
Okay.
And I talked to on the phone, but he can't hear, so we didn't have much of a conversation. It was a one-way conversation. Him talking, trying to scream at him. But you don't even have to ask the question. You know that they'd be happy about this because it's a positive thing. So they would be.
And in terms of Steven's reaction to the news, was it unexpected to him, or was he aware that something's going to come out? Or
he was aware of it, but just very recent. But he was very, very happy about it. He was excited because he thought, finally some truth. More or less my reaction. Finally, some truth. Not just speculation that this happened or that happened. Maybe this is telling us what really happened. How the car got to the Avery Salvage Yard. How did it get there? We know she left, Teresa. So how did it get back there? Who put it back there? So this is a start of looking into that. To me, it's just a start of uncovering the real truth. But it's got to start somewhere, and this is a good way. At least it's given us hope.
Yes, yeah. And it's nice to have that sort of refreshing hope, opposed to sort of dead ends as well. So hopefully something positive.
Oh yes, you'll have to keep a positive attitude, and Steven has a positive attitude, and that's what's so good. That he keeps positive no matter what's going on around him. He still thinks, I'm getting out of here. Yes, I know. It's just a matter of time, and we all have to have that attitude. I don't know where we'd be if we didn't.
And in terms of that attitude, how does Steven keep that positivity after everything that he's been through within the justice system in his whole life? How does he remain positive?
Well, I think he's a very strong human being, mentally and emotionally. He is very strong, or he couldn't do it. Right now, I think it's hope in KZ, love from supporters, all that plays a part. in his well-being. That's why letters are so important and why the phone is so important to Steven. He calls several people and, supporters. And he needs that uplifting. Anybody would. He's sitting locked in this tiny cell and can't be pleasant.
No.
But he's strong. There's no doubt in my mind. He's a very strong person.
Good.
I couldn't do it, Ed.
No, me either. No, I think it's an incredible testament to his mentality that he's been able to, just keep going, basically.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm sure he is, but is Steven aware of the sort of waves of support that he has around the world, not just in Wisconsin, but around the world generally?
Oh, yes. Yes, I read an awful lot of the posts and comments that people make on the groups to him. In fact, I took my phone over to Mama the last visit I had and read them all to her. Yeah. And just to give her a little positive feeling about, supporters out there, and that there are a lot of people in the world. And, as you're in another country, all the different countries. Yeah, there's so many different countries that have been represented in this. And of course, we have the negative people as well out there that say it's never going to happen. And I try not to tell him about those.
Yeah. In terms of your local area in Wisconsin, so where you live, is there a degree of negativity in the general public's mind, or are they positive, or is it a 50-50 split?
I think it's more like 75-25. I think there's still 75 that think that he's guilty. Okay. Around the Manitowoc area. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have not been won over by the documentary or all the talk about it. But there's more around my general area where I live that's more positive now than they ever were. When I first started with this case, people hated me. They thought, oh, wow, what's her problem? And just assuming he was guilty because he was found guilty. Mm-hmm. And he was arrested, period. Yeah. But I think I may be off on the percentage but I would more go 75-25, because the Manitowoc area is still, you can talk to people and they'll just give you this odd look, well, we know. Yeah. So I don't know. Can't change their minds.
No, indeed. And I suppose the only people's minds that anyone needs to change is the courts, and they'll hopefully consider the evidence and Steven will get a fairer shake this way. But again, from an outsider looking in, I do find that quite surprising, because I thought the documentary was extremely well done. I thought that there was a degree of balance between the prosecution and the defense side. It wasn't just defense centric. But I just think there's so many holes in this particular case that you can't possibly lean to any form of, that's a solid conviction. So yeah, I found that number, even though it's a guess, quite surprising. So how does Steven sort of fulfill his days whilst he's incarcerated at the moment? What does he do during the day?
He does a lot of reading car and truck magazines, I'll tell you. He loves his magazines and his books. Yeah, he spends a lot of time thinking about vehicles and what he's going to buy when he gets out, and what he's going to do with them when he gets out, how he's going to change the vehicles when he gets out. And of course, he spends a lot of time on the phone. They bring it to him. It has to be on their terms, of course. Mm-hmm. But he spends a lot of time on that. And also, he writes a lot of letters.
Yeah.
Not as much as he did for a while. I think he's kind of gotten tired of writing, but he does have a type. He could type them. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, watching a little bit of TV and writing letters and reading his magazines. He likes to look at those pictures on there and read all about the different types of cars, trucks, and over-the-road vehicles, and all kinds of things. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So people can still write to Steven. They could. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I encourage it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got a couple of questions from Facebook that I'll run by you, if that's okay. Jesse Alexander asks, do you think if this case is resolved, that there will be any type of reform of the Wisconsin criminal justice system?
Oh, that's what Steve and I have been hoping for years, that this case will make a difference, and constantly talking about that for the last 15 years, that we definitely need to help in any way that we can, and of course the general public as well, of getting a lot of reform out there. Our governor that's been in office about 3 years now, I guess, he ran on that platform that he was going to do something about criminal justice reform, and he organized what he called a council. I think there's 30 some people on it, but as far as I know, nothing's been done. I don't know if they've even had a meeting, but I know that he was on board to do something about justice. And I should say injustice, because there's a lot of it around here. It isn't just Steven's case. There's a lot of it, but there's a lot of it in other states as well. You know, there's a lot of it, wrongfully convicted people that spend years in prison, and then they find out, oh, they had the wrong person. Take a look at Steven's first case. Something should have been done after that. And of course, you know what happened after that was the murder. So that took care of the Avery bill and everything else. But yes, there's got to be some criminal justice reform, and I think the public needs to get involved, and I know Steven wants to, and I've always wanted to since I knew about this case, since I knew about Steven. So I'm hoping there will be. It won't happen overnight, but gradually we can do something to reform. It has to be. It can't happen to other people like it's happened to Steven twice. It can't.
No, and I wonder as well, because the sheer magnitude of the reforms, because like you say, this will be the second time that it's happened to Steven. I wonder if those in power are scared of having to make changes, because obviously something definitely needs to be done. Paul Clark asks, and again, this is in your opinion, Paul Clark asks, when found innocent, what justice can we see against Kratz, Peterson, Lenk, Colburn, etc. for the blatant violations against innocent men, one of whom was for a second time? It feels like it's a vindictive witch hunt against Steven Avery.
It's exactly what it feels like. You know, they are protected. Law enforcement's protected. And that's another thing that needs to change. I don't believe that law enforcement, prosecutors, and everything else should have that protection. If you should be able to bring a lawsuit against them, Steven should be able to get out and bring a lawsuit against these people that have actually broken the law. And there's some there that actually broke the law. I'll just give you an example, was giving the Bowens to the Halbach family. That's against the law. It was against Gahn's own law, and still he was the one that did it. So there should be able to be brought a lawsuit against these people that break the law. They shouldn't be above the law, but they are right now, and that's another part of reform. I don't know what will happen, if anything can be done later. I know Steve talks about it all the time. I'll sue him. I'll sue him. Well, maybe you will, but how far will you get with it? You know, it's something that needs to be addressed after he gets out. But
absolutely.
They just need that protection taken away from them, at least part of that protection. They should have to face the law, just like, breaking the law, just like anyone else.
Absolutely. And I suppose the idea of the rule of law, and the idea that, everybody is equal before the law, regardless of status or position. So, they absolutely should. Sonia Barnes asks, when the case is resolved, what lessons can be learned from it, and what procedures will be put in place to stop this from happening again? I think we kind of touched on this, but if you could pick one lesson that could be learned from this, what would that be?
Stop planting evidence? No, that's just something in my mind. They should use exactly what they find, not what their made-up narrative is. They have to, I believe, investigators, for one thing, need to take more time, more patience, maybe, with their case, and not have tunnel vision on one person like they did with Steven. I'm talking about the investigators here, not the prosecutor, but the investigators, they had tunnel vision from day one with Steven. So maybe let's not do that anymore. Let's learn a lesson from this, because it's happened twice to Steven. It was tunnel vision before, and he didn't even know what they were talking about when they arrested him. And that's what they need to do. I think that should be reformed before anything else. Let's take our time. Let's not zero in on one person. Just because Teresa Hallbuck went to the Avery Salvage Yard does not mean she was killed there. Does not mean that Steven was the last person to see her alive. Let's investigate it. Don't, throw him to the wolves before it even is investigated, because that's what they did. They didn't want to talk about anybody else. They didn't think it was necessary. Didn't matter who else was on the property that day. It was still Steven that did it. And that's tunnel vision from day one. So that needs to change, for one. But there's a lot of other things.
Absolutely. And do you think that tunnel vision would have existed if there wasn't this case hanging over the state in terms of Steven's first wrongful conviction? Do you think that's the reason?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it had the most to do with it. Yes, I do. Our AG, our Attorney General, had said on TV, there's no way I'm going to pay that man that much money. And that was from the first case. And she made sure that they didn't. And yes, I think it had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think after watching the documentary and sort of reading about the case, I think it's hard not to hold that opinion, and that's obviously very worrying. I've got one final question for you from Louise Ebeck from on Facebook. On a personal level, how do you feel Steven will cope when he's free? For example, is he so institutionalized after spending more than half his life in prison? How is he going to adjust to living in the real world?
I think he's going to have a very hard time. I know he did the first time. What confused him the most was gas pumps, because they had changed so much. I remember him telling me that. I think he's going to have a very hard time to getting used to not living in that tiny cell, being able to come and go as he pleases. It's going to take a while. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think it could be any other way after you've been locked up that long. And he's being told what to do all the time. He's being told what to do and when to do it and how to do it. He can't have an opinion on anything. And so, it's going to be difficult. It's going to take a number of years, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's it from me. That's the questions we had. I really appreciate you joining us today. It's great to just get a tangible feel for how Steven's feeling and how the family are feeling about this, and hopefully something positive comes out of all of this. I wish you the very best for the future.
I'm hoping that something very good comes out of this. And I thank you very much for this interview and for asking me to be here. And we got over our bumps there in the beginning. So that's done now.
We did.
So I thank you. I thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks a lot, Sandy.
Continue doing your perfect job that you're doing. I've watched a lot of the interviews and they're good. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks, Sandy, for that really interesting and open discussion of how Steven feels concerning this news, and hopefully as time moves on we will get some positive news and a positive outcome regarding what new evidence Kathleen has found. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for speaking so openly. I'd like to thank our supporters of the show, Joe Doherty, Donna Jenkins, Lucy Green, Claire Malone, Ian Robbins, Elise Goff, Michael Saw, Pad Ryan and Wolf Ryan. Thank you for continuing to contribute to the show and to help keep this show going. If you'd like to contribute and get your name on the credits, please feel free to follow the Ko-fi link that's in the pinned comment section. And please also subscribe to our Instagram page, which launched last weekend, just search Criminal Justice Natters on Instagram. You'll see the yellow signs and you can take it from there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.